Fort Canning Park today is associated with being Insta worthy, or a must-shoot locale for pre-wedding shots. This is highlighted by the fact that the Registry of Marriages is located in Fort Canning Park. Yet beneath the beauty of the location lies one of Singapore's most historic landmarks, with a rich history to boot. Fort Canning Park has been a landmark since Singapore's earliest recorded history. It was previously known as Bukit Larangan, which translates in Malay to Forbidden Hill, and ancient kings were believed to be buried here. The site was considered holy and was a locale for many to make their annual pilgrimage to. Major William Farquhar climbed the hill himself after founding Singapore and drew the first gun on the hill. One of the highlights of the park today is the Battle Box, constructed in 1936. It is 9 meters beneath Fort Canning Hill and was used in the war as a nerve center for British military operations in Southeast Asia. It was a site where Lieutenant General Arthur Percival, General Officer Commanding of the Malaya Command, made the fateful decision to surrender Singapore to the Japanese on the 15th of February 1942. There were many reasons as to what attributed to the fall of Singapore in the World War, that in the words of Prime Minister Winston Churchill was called the worst disaster and largest capitulation in British history. In this video, we attempt to cover the main points as to why this happened. Singapore was a vital part of the British Empire and thought to be an impregnable fortress. Yet the surrender of Singapore showed the world that the Japanese army was a force to be reckoned with. The Japanese expansion throughout the region after Pearl Harbor in 1941 did not deter the British military command, as they believed that the power they could call would make any Japanese attempts useless. The newly completed defences was thought to be able to fend off waves of the Japanese. Amongst the ranks of British soldiers in Singapore, word was spreading that Japanese soldiers were poor fighters, especially against the might of the British army. This leads us to one of the first pitfalls of the fall of Singapore: overconfidence in the army and the lack of proper communication channels. The purported might of the British Empire was met with the speed of the Japanese, never allowing the British forces time to regroup. The British assumed that the Japanese would attack from the sea, which is why the defense mechanisms in Singapore were pointed out to the sea. Yet the Japanese attacked through the mangrove swamps and jungles of the Malay Peninsula with such brutality that left no prisoners of war, as they believed it would slow their attack. This shows us a misplaced strategy used that ultimately led to inefficient use of the defense equipment in place. Lieutenant General Arthur Percival led a larger force of 90,000 men against the invading Japanese force of 65,000 led by General Tomoyuki Yamashita. The Japanese force were battle-hardened from the Manchurian and Chinese campaigns. In contrast, most of Percival's men had close to zero experience. The Japanese advanced on bicycles with speed and ferocity, leaving Percival's men in full retreat against the brutality of the Japanese soldiers, which shocked the British. It was clear that the Japanese force had more experience and better equipment, and the British did not anticipate the battle to be so lopsided. Lieutenant General Arthur Percival withdrew his men from the causeway and made one last stand at the coastlines of the island, spreading the men out too thinly for an attack. The Japanese attacked across the Johor Strait and took Singapore, leading to the surrender of Singapore to the Japanese in the former Fort Factory. Ultimately, while it can be demoralizing to reminisce on our losses and failures, the fall of Singapore especially being viewed as a humiliation for the British government. It is important to learn from the strategies in place and adapt for ourselves to prevent similar scenarios from occurring. The fall of Singapore has shown us the importance of good strategies, the effects of complacency, and the importance of good support, morale, equipment, and experience.